Imagine being caught in a storm in the middle of a dark, endless ocean, where massive waves pull you under just as you try to catch your breath. Why do the kindest people often face the heaviest storms? Did you know that the individuals who faced the most unimaginable tragedies in human history didn't break? Instead, they bloomed. There is an ancient saying, the example of a believer is like a fresh, tender plant. When the wind blows, it bends, but when the wind quiets, it stands perfectly straight again. I spent countless hours studying what experts call the architecture of resilience within the Islamic tradition. By examining the lives of ancient prophets, early companions, and modern believers, I've uncovered a proven, timeless formula for surviving grief and trauma. It isn't about passive resignation. It's built on two powerful pillars: Sabr, which is active patience and perseverance, and Tawakkul, which is complete, unshakable trust in the divine. Today we are going to explore 5 profound historical blueprints from the Islamic tradition. These factual stories prove that your hardest moments are not punishments. They are the very seeds of your greatest growth. Our first point shatters a common myth about sadness. Society often tells us to get over it, or that crying means you are weak. But the Islamic tradition teaches that emotions are a divine creation, and feeling grief does not mean you lack faith. Look at the Prophet Yaqub, or Jacob. When he was separated from his beloved son Yusuf, his grief was so intense and chronic that he cried until his eyes turned white with blindness. He was a prophet of God, yet he was entirely human. He didn't suppress his sadness. Instead, he practiced what the Quran calls Sabrun Jameel, beautiful patience. Beautiful patience means you stop complaining to people, and instead, you pour all of your anguish out to your Creator. Then there is Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. He represents the ultimate example of patience in the face of absolute loss. In a short period, his immense wealth was destroyed, his children passed away, and he was struck by a debilitating illness that left him socially isolated. But the motivational power of Ayyub alayhi salam's story is what he didn't say. He never fell into a woe is me mentality. He didn't demand to know why God was doing this to him. Instead, his prayer was simply, "Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful." He focused entirely on divine mercy rather than his own despair. The lesson: acceptance of your reality, without anger or denial, is the first step to recovery. Our second point explores how frantic, everyday struggles can be elevated to the highest forms of worship. We see this through the physical and emotional sacrifices of mothers. Take the story of Hajar. Left in the barren desert of Mecca with her infant son, Ismail, she found herself completely isolated. As her baby cried from thirst, she didn't just sit and wait for a miracle. She ran desperately between the hills of Safa and Marwa 7 times, searching for water. Her frantic search was a moment of extreme vulnerability, but also of total tawakkul, reliance on God. Because of her physical effort and spiritual trust, God didn't just provide the miraculous spring of Zamzam. He made her desperate footsteps a mandatory ritual for millions of pilgrims for all of eternity. Similarly, the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam faced an impossible trial. To save her baby from a tyrant, she was commanded to place him into the river. The text describes her heart becoming completely empty with grief. Yet, she let go. Tawakkul is like a free-fall trust exercise. You do your absolute best, you tie your camel, and then you lean back and let go, trusting that the Creator will catch you. The lesson: your anxiety, your exhaustion, and your daily running around to provide for your loved ones are seen by the divine. When done with trust, your worldly struggle becomes a sacred Point number 3 challenges our modern definition of success. Today we measure worth by wealth, followers, and luxury. But let's look at Mus'ab ibn Umayr, radiyallahu anhu. Mus'ab was the flower of the Quraysh, the most handsome, pampered, and wealthy youth in Mecca. He wore shoes imported from Yemen, and fragrances so expensive that the scent would linger in the streets long after he passed. But when he discovered the truth of Islam, he abandoned all of it. His powerful mother stripped him of his wealth and imprisoned him, but Mus'ab's faith only grew stronger. He became the first ambassador of Islam. But the most heart-wrenching part of his story is his end. He was martyred at the Battle of Uhud while bravely protecting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The man who once wore the finest silks in the world was buried in a piece of shredded cloth so short that if they covered his head, his feet were exposed. They had to use sweet-smelling grass to cover his legs. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wept over him, knowing Mus'ab had traded a temporary world for an eternal one. Or consider Sumayya bint Khayyat. She was a frail, elderly black woman with no tribal protection, one of the most marginalized people in her society. Yet, when tortured by the powerful tyrant Abu Jahl, she refused to renounce her faith. She spat in the face of absolute worldly power and became the very first martyr in the history of Islam. Worldly power and wealth are illusions. True success is achieving spiritual conviction that makes you untouchable to the darkness of the world. Our fourth point is for anyone who has ever felt bullied, ugly, or unloved. In our age of social media, toxic beauty standards destroy our self-image. But the story of a man named Julaybib cures this. Julaybib's name literally meant small grown. In a society obsessed with physical perfection and tribal lineage, his parents were unknown. He was physically deformed, mocked, and treated as an absolute outcast. Men literally forbade him from sitting in their company. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ saw him differently. The Prophet ﷺ personally intervened to find Julaybib a brilliant, pious wife, restoring his dignity. Later, a fierce battle took place. When the dust settled, the Prophet ﷺ asked his companions who was missing. They named their famous relatives, but forgot Julaybib. The Prophet ﷺ, however, said, "But I have lost Julaybib, search for him." They found him martyred next to 7 enemies he had valiantly defeated. The Prophet of God knelt in the dirt, cradled Julaybib in his arms, and declared to the world, "He is of me, and I am of him." Society's labels do not define your worth. When the world overlooks you based on material standards, remember that your true beauty and dignity are measured by the divine. Finally, point number 5. These principles are not just ancient history. They are alive right now. In 2019, the world witnessed the horrific Christchurch mosque shootings. A man named Farid Ahmed lost his beloved wife, Husna, who was killed after saving others. Confined to a wheelchair, Farid lost the love of his life. Yet he shocked the world by publicly forgiving the killer. Drawing on his faith, Farid said he refused to have a heart boiling like a volcano. He chose peace, stating that responding with hatred would only let the killer control his heart. And consider the story of the scholar Omar Suleiman's mother, May Hashem. She spent decades battling strokes, deafness, and cancer, given a meager 40% survival rate. Yet she was known for her perpetual, radiant smile. When people wondered why bad things happened to good people, she reframed her suffering not as a punishment, but as a divine purification. She lived in a state of beautiful tawakkul. The lesson: whether you are dealing with the loss of a loved one or chronic illness, grief is natural, but you can choose to move forward with your loved one's memories, using forgiveness and patience to free your own heart. From the tear-filled eyes of prophets, to a mother running in the desert, to an outcast held in the arms of a messenger, to modern believers smiling through the storm, the architecture of resilience is clear. Suffering is not the end of your story. It is the crucible that refines your soul. If this video brought peace to your heart today, please gently tap the like button and subscribe to the channel so we can continue sharing these beautiful truths. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 stories resonated with you the most? Drop a comment below and share this video with someone who might be weathering a storm right now. Until next time, hold on to your hope, keep your roots deep, and let your heart bloom.